بكرة أنا دوام، بعد بكرة دوام، يومين عندنا.
Hello guys. Any propose?
هاي
You will put mark.
يو
But New Happy's definitely going to be a team to watch today. They popped a 60-point day yesterday. Huge day. Ming Ming especially. I know copying a lot of fantasy points for a lot of people. Cammy being one of them.
Yeah, chucking him on as a captain turned out to be one of the best decisions Cammy's made all week, realistically.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
sure anyone else who pressed that little button onto Ming Ming in fantasy would be thinking exactly the same. No surprise to see him so popular as a pick this time around. But New Happy, they had the opportunity to make a move over the bridge early on, as did FaZe coming in from Milta. Might have actually expected a little bit of an attempt at a camp towards Na'Vi. There's always some back and forth between those two teams in Europe, but no, they dodged around it. They took the boat and the glider, and FaZe, they might just be happy to camp whoever comes next.
Yeah, New Happy have made it okay, and they're actually kind of committing quite far south on Sosnovka Island, expecting the pull to go in that direction, but not really too much to pay attention to here, to be honest. There's nothing happening in this compound. They're just going to clear it out. So we'll move over to Twisted Minds and see how they go. Sort of floating around quite close to Hisaki, who's kind of on his own as far as Cerberus is concerned. Still the last remaining member on the northern side.
Still looking to see if there was any opportunities that Howl would present for themselves, while the rest of the squad got a boat and made their way over to Military Island, got that foothold, and he's just kind of have to get his own way over. I'm sure they would have left him another boat, and that's also, you know, a good way to deny other teams a chance to cross behind them. Can't deny an emergency parachute though, but oh boy, Twisted Minds might just get it done for them.
Headshot as well. Twisted Minds surely get both, and they do. Lou was knocked in the meanwhile, but it was really wishful thinking for Howl after how quick and clean that initial knock was onto Code Marco. Twisted Minds were always going to win that one. They had a massive advantage from the outset.
I'm not sure that Hisaki actually showed any presence that might have forced Twisted Minds further east, so I think this was just really unfortunate luck and terrible timing for Howl as they were making their way forwards. Again, remember that their vehicle was stolen at the start of the game. That delayed them from starting to make their move, and Twisted Minds just come flying down the hillside, take 2 points. There is a knock in return, but there will be no secure on that point for Howl.
Yeah. VLTH is kind of one of those teams that's neither here nor there at the moment. 36 points. Puts you in a pretty decent position to work from.
For sure.
But you still do need to have a reasonably decent day today. Can't go missing.
No.
KDF and Falcons both having the same idea as to how they want to get onto Sosnovka Island.
It's a pretty good idea. I mean, Bleed Esports took an emergency parachute just a little bit ahead of them, like about 45 seconds ago. They made their landing touching down underneath the watchful eye of E-Arena up on top of the observatory, but that certainly means that especially the eastern side of the island is getting super stacked in terms of landing positions. They're going to have to commit into Military Island. Maybe Relo can get himself the hardspawn vehicle if it's still there, but there was a team looting in Military Island. So this might just end up being a final destination for Falcons. If this shifts away, they're not going to be able to get out. So they're hoping and praying for that 9 zone to end directly onto the military base.
There's a fairly good chance that it will. Genji have set themselves up pretty comfortably. KDF as well.
Yeah, similar story for them, really.
And early enough in the game that when they do come flying on in, there's no one really there to punish them. Couple of shots out from 17, but none connecting. And so far, the only teams that haven't made it over onto the island are VLTH, Twisted Minds, and Howl, or what remains of Howl.
I don't think those last two are a coincidence. I think Twisted Minds knows that there's a weakened team behind them,
Yes.
and knows that, hey, no one's camping the bridge. Why don't we? I mean, they've checked the coastline. Cerberus took all the boats. There's very few options for Howl to get over there, and Twisted Minds, they want to secure those points. They want to come in and dominate. That's been their MO from day number one. They don't just want to win the events, they want to win by 50, 60 points. They want to be clearly the best, and there's an opportunity for them to try and exert that dominance. They're not going to let it go amiss.
Yeah. Well, VLTH, for their own right, have done a pretty good job of scouting this eastern bridge. They sent Kiss over. Nothing really happening. No one looking for a bridge camp. We did see a couple of bridge camp shenanigans yesterday and kind of blew up in the face of, was it VP, I think, that was doing it, and Pero, the team that put them in the ground.
Yep.
So maybe some teams have learned from that. Either way, everyone a little bit more focused on getting their own position locked down rather than trying to deal with their opponents at this point in time. Cerberus back in the server today. We might be treated to something special again from them.
It's kind of interesting that Hisaki is poking and prodding his way around so close to Jeems. It's been the problem for James that he plays this role for his squad, and this time he falls victim to it. Haisaki catches him on the move as he hops on out of the vehicle, but with the pressure from eArena on the observatory as well, he has to fall off the angle, but FaZe he has to fall off the angle, but FaZe he has to fall off the angle, but FaZe he has to fall off the angle, but FaZe
Paul, nothing really to comment on with that one, to be quite honest. Very straightforward, very expected, straight smack bang in the middle, more or less. BLTH, bang in the middle, more or less. To make a bit of a rotation, but there's quite a lot of zone to play around those hills to the northern side of the military base as well as an option.
Sure. I mean, the space towards the south of the military zone is very wide open.
Yeah.
There is a ridge that Valitai could look to try and make the rotation into, but playing on the relatively that region itself. I mean, KDF have claimed the C block. That region itself. I mean, KDF have claimed the C block. That region itself. I mean, KDF have claimed the C block.
This one, but he's going to pull out the nade, so we'll just hold that thought for a moment. Is it going to be on point? I don't know. That's a difficult nade to hit. Doesn't quite connect for any damage. Oh, he's run straight into it. He's run straight into the grenade. He didn't have to move.
That's a great read from Ada, though. They threw the smokes to try and bait the utility, and they've just tossed it off to the side. Corexi walks in face first as well, and this time Cerberus will steal the point that was taken from them earlier on.
I think Cerberus are going to be looking for more than just the 1 point, though. It has to be said. FaZe are in a shambles of a position now. Gen G have kind of moved in. Not sure they're going to stick around for too long, though, after having seen what just happened to FaZe.
But this is the big problem that FaZe have been having, just losing James early on, but this time it's not through fault of his own. It was Haisaki doing what James is trying to do to teams that's left them in this shambolic position, and Fex is getting tagged down from third parties. It's Orca in from distance. The first team to make an emergency parachute will secure the first team eliminated.
Well, good point on the board for Bleed, it has to be said. Again, they're one of the teams that we're highlighting. Look at KDF down, 19th place onwards. They've all only played the 6 games. This is now their 7th game, which means that they're in the race, even if they don't have a huge amount of points. And Bleed, could they have a day like maybe what Legacy had yesterday, right? Legacy was a bit of an outside shot, even going into that last game.
Right.
They were able to win it, though. They had a pretty good final game. But if you run into a player like Himas, maybe you'll be running into a few more problems. So
you need to be more worried about Himas running into you, especially if you feel safe in a compound. He's always that little creepy demon making his way up close and personal because he's got so much confidence and he has every right to make this play.
Himas still keen to stick around after popping a couple of meds. Gen G wisely, though, have moved back off of the hill that they took off of FaZe. Left, I think it was Ada. Maybe it wasn't Ada. Doesn't really matter. They left one of the players down in the compound to make sure they could rotate back in pretty quickly. But all that has done is kind of funnel them into the sightlines of Cerberus, and it's probably the last team that you want to be fighting at this point in time. Although they seem to be doing pretty well for themselves. Himas again is going to be forced to heal back up, so that'll cost a little more time for Cerberus.
Yeah, they're holding the line relatively effectively, and a big part of it's down to that utility. They showed good usage of it in their contributions to wiping out FaZe, and the grenades are enough to quell the Cerberus push for now. A little bit of third-party action from C-Block with KDF as well as we wait for this zone pop, but doesn't really matter for Gen G and Cerberus. They're committed into this fight. Thankfully, they are within the zone, but it's all under the watchful eyes of eArena up on top of that high ground position, and they have so much information and so much opportunity on a zone like this.
Nade doesn't quite manage to get inside. This fight is really brewing, isn't it? Cerberus definitely want to take this compound. They want to take it away from Gen G. And you do back them. Look at that from Himas. It's just so clean. And it gets deleted. No trade as of yet, but Haisaki will drop. So back to the 3-on-3, and Himas is looking for his impact once again. He just doesn't lose fights. Back to 20 HP. Another first aid kit to be popped. Tosi going to try and make something happen, excuse me, but he gets traded straight away. The setup is too good from Cerberus. Haisaki bleeding out. They've got to find this final player, and they've got to do it quick.
We're yet to see a knock in this kill feed that doesn't have a headshot symbol next to it. These guys are absolute insane aimers in this game, and all the utility has been expended in the earlier parts of this engagement. Tycon just trying to find an angle along the hallway, and he will do so. Rex caught off guard. Barpo just managing to get out of the way, but he's down to single-digit HP, and Tycon will take him out as well.
Well, it wasn't quite 100% clean from Cerberus, but it was still a pretty damn good job. Those are always fights that are fraught with danger, right? When you're potentially making one wrong move around one corner, and that's your game over. Cerberus get away with 4 points and only lose the one player for it. I think you can take that, especially given their position right now. I mean,
Right, I
you
mean,
know, like,
it's not like they need those kills, but they're just doing it for themselves to build that confidence.
good
But
practice, man.
the fact that they're able to take that fight with extremely limited third-party opportunities. KDF put a couple of tags into him as, doesn't matter, he still sits down 2 with quick peeks through their window on headshots, but then clearing out phase first meant that they had the space to make that play. Mime now unfortunately trying to regroup with the squad, gets caught out by a bolt action shot from far as well by Daytrade up on the ridges. They're desperately trying to get the flush, and they will do so. Howl desperately trying to get across the bridge, and thankfully no one is there to camp, but Twisted Minds not too far away on the edge of the safe zone.
I mean, respect for Hal to have actually been able to make it in alive. The vehicle. Don't want to lose the car, especially when you're out in the blue like that. Quizzy has been able to get the finish on to December 12th, and that's not good, because I've got him on my fantasy team.
I hate to hear it. Absolutely terrible. This was the dip that the observers were suggesting that maybe Welly Tai might look to try and make a play towards, should the zone go towards it, and they're really demonstrating the fact that, yeah, there is practically nothing to play down south. Virtus Pro coming up from the ferry pier, just putting pressure into New Happy as Welly Tai opt out of that entirely. They make their way across the southern tip of the military base into the bunkers, and they're rewarded with a zone heavily in their favor. Falcons have found a vehicle. It has come at the expense of Mime, but that emergency parachute for themselves and Bleed as well, paying off massively on our faithful shift.
Yeah, a few specific points of contact happening around the map right now. Virtus Pro definitely getting the better of New Happy.
Why is that a hollow sight? This man, give this man a scope, please. But
sometimes you got to do what you got to do, you know.
You got the kill anyway.
When life gives you lemons, Saga, what do?
You shoot New Happy with a hollow sight.
You take it. Make do with what you got. A bad tradesman blames his tools. Either way, it's a good spray. New Happy eliminated. And for a team that did so well yesterday, that is an early exit that they might not have been anticipating. Still sitting on at number 60.
We look back to the grand finals of PGS3. New Happy's day one was absolutely ridiculous. Picked up 62% of their points across the entire grand finals on day one, but they did fall off quite hard. Hoping that's not an early indicator of replication, but Orcarin, oh, he was ready to defend, but no. Suju got taken down outside, and Orcarin switching over, getting ready for the close range engagement, just exposes a slight hint of an angle to Flood, and he gets sat down far out of the range of res. Oh, nice grenade too.
Nice nade from Flood. I mean, is it the day-to-day for Falcons? They've been really struggling in PGS 3 and 4. Here again, an opportunity for them, but it would have to be a big day. It would have to have probably a 40 points plus day.
But Tulins, what kind of angle does he have through the smoke that he can hit Tigger so accurately? But he's back in his element, up on top of the rock, holding the line, feeding the info. He didn't spot out KDF behind, and Na'Vi now catching out Howl. Oh, yeah.
They ran all that way for nothing, Saga.
Unfortunate, really.
So said to finish them off, and you're talking about Batulans. He's actually getting some kills there. You can see in the kill feed actually chiming in. Twisted Minds, to be fair, to their own right, are having a little bit of trouble losing players here and there. Batulans is waiting patiently for this shot onto Tigger.
It's a level of commitment from Batulins that, you know, he's going to stay here regardless. A quick replay of the quick peaks between Genji and Himas again. Just whenever he's holding an angle like that up close, his reaction speed is just so insane. He just does not miss. And Tycon cleaning up the rest.
Yeah. Well, example, being able to finish off Bean. He's going to get some shots in onto Tycon as well, but Tigger, who was being watched by Batulans, is going to at least find that quick trade. But Batulans, back to his usual tricks on the bike. Not sure how easy this is going to be for him to work the rest of the game solo, though he does find himself in that position quite a bit.
Cerberus, once again, look at how much space they have. That hilltop means the entire north is under their control. Thank the observers for highlighting that. But that's purely because they've killed everyone else who was there to contend. KDF maybe was holding in some spot of that position, but a combination of E-Arena, Batulin's an example, took them down as well. So much space to work.
Got to remember, though, they only have 3 players alive. Same for Falcons. So those 2 teams that you'd look at and go, okay, well, the circle's been good to those teams.
Oh, we spotted another one.
Still are a little bit wounded, so there might be an angle for someone else to sneak something in somewhere. Either way, yeah, E-Arena on the receiving end of a couple of the Cerberus shots, and don't know what it is about this team, but it just seems as though they cannot go a game without getting a significant amount of kills in it at the very least, right? This doesn't even have to be a win for Cerberus. They've already got 6 kills. They're already keeping that scoreboard ticking over. They're just having such an amazing purple patch at the moment.
Just the team play on that squad is just unbelievable. The way that they just never give an opportunity to really lose too much on a fight. The fact that they come out of every fight they've had so far, still with 3 standing, it's just so impressive. They do it every single time. Looking for the long-range shots, but Hakatori up close. That's the problem for the Falcons.
Yeah, so it's just such a shame, you know, because they were in a decent position in terms of where the zone had shifted, and then, unfortunately, getting the timing wrong. Hakatori is going to be able to pick up a double kill. Rello and Flood both down, so 1 remaining member for the Falcons. But it doesn't get easier now for Na'Vi, with Ferris being finished off as well. It's just a mess, really, this zone. No one seems to be able to keep all their players alive. The only team with 4 remaining up currently is Virtus.pro and maybe Daytrade.
Yeah, they've really had not much to do down towards the south. They made a wrap in towards the wide open western side of this zone that remains. Shanks desperately trying to make his way in towards the zone. He managed to find 1 point, which is more than Armory Gaming had on their first day of Erangel altogether, catching Feyrist off guard. But now a 1 versus 1 against Batulins. No option for third parties, expending all the utility he has, and that should be enough to take him down. But it's the blue zone that gets the credit. Nothing in the hands of Batulins.
Yeah, Tycon.
They both go down to the zone.
Looking for some more, isn't he? He's always keen, always hungry. So said will be found out by Daytrade as well. Daytrade not putting together too bad of a game thus far. Although Belmoth has been located and he'll be finished off as well. So I might have spoken too soon. Perhaps a bit of a cast to curse. 3 points on the board for Daytrade, or rather 3 kills, plus at least 1 placement point for them now out of that game. Might not be enough to settle any of the nerves coming into this final day of the group stage of PGS 4, but it is at least something.
Yeah. Getting a solid demonstration of the pros and cons of emergency parachutes right now, demonstrated by Bleed Esports. They got the position that they otherwise would not have had, but once the zone shifts away, they've been playing these bowls. They've got really nothing in terms of any game plan to get across from here. They've got no vehicles, running low on smokes, and Cerberus have so much space to work with to flex out and just take shots for free.
They do.
And it makes it so difficult.
But so does VP. You have a bit of a look at the minimap there for a second, and you can see they've got players out to the west, they've got players in center, so they've got that 2-2 split, and they are basically controlling that entire side of the zone. So the north is being held by Cerberus, yes, but the west is being held by VP.
Yeah. And that's what they did for their win on game number 1 of day number 1 as well. Held down that position for as long as they could and then waited for the opportunities to present themselves. Not getting over-aggressive and risking anything like exposing themselves to poo chills just for a second. Happy tries to find some sort of opening for Bleed, and he's immediately going to have to regret it.
Well, Na'Vi quietly plugging away as well. Puchils has been spotted out by Megvalos. That is bad news for Daytrade. They really would have liked to have gotten probably another couple of points out of this game just to keep it ticking over, but it's wishful thinking now. Flash kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place. All he can really do is put his head down and hope for the best. Cerberus, alongside Na'Vi and Bleed themselves, are doing enough damage to Bleed that that'll be the end of that squad.
Tag from Lucarox. Welly running out of time, running out of space in the zone. They had to make a move. They push directly across to the bunker, and thankfully it's not one that's occupied by a team with more presence than just the solo of Lyrics remaining. Otherwise, that might have been a much more costly rotation, but a good tag from Lookarooks to at least punish them somewhat. Now Flash, the last remaining solo of Daytrade, has a rock for cover, but Latte's still got an angle and takes him out.
Yeah, Valley Thai Esports trying to push their way in. As of yet, actually haven't really been spotted on this cross so far. Tree coverage is keeping them safe from Cerberus. But Na'Vi quite close by, and Hakatori definitely keeping an eye on things. Lyrics is also just lurking around. But VP, it has to be said, really are going to be the dominant power later in this game. Similar to the game that they played yesterday, where they just took it slow early on in the piece and then inevitably won from a fairly strong position, having not really done a huge amount earlier on in the game. Kind of getting the same vibes.
It's definitely a game plan that can pay off quite heavily, and Virtus.pro are not a team that is averse to taking risks, but right now in their current position, they just want to play the numbers game. 38 points. They only realistically need about 20 or so more. Picking up a win here would go a long way to securing their spot in the grand finals. They do not want to miss out again. They've got themselves a position in the zone. Cerberus now finally may just come under some pressure. Himas probably going to have to prone his way along that ridge for now, but Sololzi and Tycon with moves to make. But first, we have to deal with all of the solos on the eastern side of the zone.
That is probably what Cerberus are going to do. Hakatori, again, getting into the kill feed, having quite a solid game so far. Headshot was connected there by Tycon. That'll keep Na'Vi ducking back down and not quite so eager to push their way forward. About 5 kills for Hakatori.
Yep.
You're going to take that?
Absolutely will. Snakers still just lurking with that MT49 in hand. He is ready for an absolute battle. Whatever comes through that door, he's ready to spray the dang heck out of it. But maybe Na'Vi isn't even going to bother. They're up on the high ground now, but they do need to find themselves an angle through first. And they've got Lyrics, Latte, and now Himas in that corner as well to try and contend with, to look for any kind of opening.
Yeah, remember as well that Cerberus have an angle on that. Tycon was kind of keeping an eye on things, and here's Himas, who indeed is watching. The spray is not quite as clean as what he would have liked it to have been, but the nade, it'll come through too little too late. Even if it does catch Himas, which it won't, it doesn't go deep enough. He's found DiffX, finished him off, and that's the end of Na'Vi.
Well, the first 3x Org spray from Himas was a little bit human. The second one certainly wasn't, but he had the assistance of Latte, and he stays alive for now. Tycon has to try and make the run down. He has a couple of smokes to work with, but there's not enough tags to come through. Snakers has made his move. Latte, one solo was stabbed in the back just as he was about to step on another. So Himas, now aware of the position of Lyrics as well. That's a 2-point pickup for the Falcons from Snakers. Huge and much needed.
It's about as best as you can really hope for in that position. There's just not really much of a way that he can get into the zone.
Are you joking? Wow, 1,000 damage already.
Yeah, he's popping off again, isn't he? This is why you got to have him in your fantasy team. #1 for kills, #1 for damage. Snakers, he's done well, I think. You know, you got to give him some credit, actually. That's a good shot onto Tycon. I don't think it's going to amount to much, though. He's stuck in the blue, can't out-heal it. And so it'll be Falcons out of the picture.
But
another res required.
An opportunity now. Tycon's been knocked alongside, and Himas will have to be the one to revive Sololzi so far away. If Lyrics activates, that's a huge blow to Cerberus.
Yeah, Cerberus also thinking about this potential battle against VP if Lyrics is finished off. Tycon might not even be resable at this point. I mean, the gap has really been closed. Virtus.pro, they're pushing their way in, and they are looking to take advantage of the shenanigans that are going on. Flash is going over the top. Lyrics, whoa, going to be copying those. And Nixie will make short work of Lyrics, but all that's really going to do is make the job even more difficult now for Cerberus, because they're pretty much just going to have to get this done as a duo, and what a Flash.
VP doesn't have the information that Tycon was not revived on this. Lookarooks goes down to a single HP, trying to take the 1 versus 1. There's the confirmation. They know Cerberus is a 2-man now, and they've done a ton of damage. Sololzi, one more tag. Dancing left and right. Quizzy can't make it connect.
Surely this is way too much pressure to come back from, though, for Cerberus. They've got both members prone down, hoping desperately to be able to get some meds off, and the nades, the util, are coming through. Ibiza will catch Himas. That's exactly what you'd want to be seeing, because Sololzy, maybe on his own, is still a threat, but not nearly enough. And that is going to be the first game of the day, going the way of Virtus.pro.
They really are fantastic at the start of the day, picking up the win on game number 1 twice in a row. Virtus.pro playing the game in such an effective way, not getting over-aggressive, keeping themselves nice and safe, and then when the opportunity presents itself to make a move, they absolutely pounce. And big stuff from Lyrix as well, just to deny the revive onto Tycon, because if Cerberus is a 3-man, you would probably back them in any of those circumstances.
Just getting some footage there of Falcons. Interested to see how they're feeling after that game. Maybe a decent enough start. We'll have to kind of follow how things go over the next 5 games or so, but time is running out for Falcons and plenty more. So they've really got to get themselves rolling here as we finish off on game number 1.
It was a grisly game for VP as they send the dogs back to the pound, and they looked like the hungry pack as they hunted Cerberus down and dominated that end.
Only one bear joke. I thought we were going to get at least 2 out. I got 2 yesterday. Didn't you?
I know. I barely got that one in as it was. Either way, though, let's talk about how good that game. Now, so, military, what is more PUBG than the first game of the final day when everyone decides who goes home than giving us a military circle and, well, what was a really rough plane to start off game number 1?
Boy, PUBG is going to PUBG sometimes. We get a hot drop just to kick everything off into a military
Armory,
circle.
what are you doing?
Hey, you know Shanks managed to kill somebody.
He did, and he got away. They ultimately lived longer than Howl. I think when Howl saw that hot drop, it looked like they were, I mean, they chased him with fisticuffs. Like, that was, they were excited about
AG
the
technically won. Is that what you're trying to say?
I guess, kind of.
Yeah, maybe.
Not really. Howl got 3 points off of that. And they went deeper in the game, but Armory looks like they are going to just do Armory things for the rest of this. It's fascinating to watch. And then we go to the late game. We see that VP was dominant. Now, is it because Ibiza is so tall that he can see the entire field from the top of military? Who's to say? But these guys are playing out of their minds right now, and it is a night and day team for me, Matchroom, compared to what we saw in the group stages last time.
And especially navigating a circle like this. This was a very chaotic circle. We know that whenever we end up over here next to the bunkers, it just, you have the no man's land around them. It's very hard to defend. As you saw, Falcons went down there quite early, got control of a very good spot that was in the late game, but just a ton of people all around drawing a ton of attention. And when we look at teams like, whenever we look at Cerberus and Nemas, the navigation around Manor and how they were just playing outside, picking up a ton of kills, this is the way I'd like to start the day.
Yeah, here's the thing, though. VP gets the win. Cerberus still comes in second place, and this is to be... Cerberus is also out there taking 1v whatevers. They're like in the mid game, they're just off having a good time, and they still somehow continuously make it to the top 3 or 4. And it's gotten so that was literally a 4v2. But the 2 players that were up, I'm sitting here going, well, I don't know if VP can confidently win this one. Like, these guys are wild.
I mean, the only reason that they managed to win it was, as the casters were talking about, there wasn't a chance to give anybody on Cerberus a moment to breathe.
Right.
If you're going to take down Cerberus, that's how you have to do it. You just have to keep stacking damage to where they can't heal through it, and Tycon can't come up and res.
How do you kill them while they sleep? Like, that's the idea, right? You have to catch them when they are unable to react, and that is what VP did. They locked them in and did not give them a chance to breathe.
How do you kill that, which kills everything else first, is, I mean, you can see damage numbers alone come out from Cerberus phenomenal, but VP finding themselves a very successful round inside that one, and this is a squad that is still on the come up. They still need to get into that top 16, and this is going to do a world of good for them.
Absolutely. I mean, they said at PGS3 they felt like they were sort of out of pace. They didn't quite understand the lobby. They hadn't made that transition from EMEA to international play. I think you could argue right now without any issue that they have started to figure out that lobby. They're playing their game. They're doing a great job with it. And I do think that this chicken dinner, man of the match going to Ibiza, he's calling for that right now. I think this puts them in a position where they should pretty comfortably push forward into the grand final.
I mean, if you need somebody that's going to adjust and has a history of understanding how to navigate different situations, Ibiza is going to be one of those players. I mean, historic player, been around for so long. You can see it's also one of those games, though, where you're going to walk away with a victory. You are going to get the 7 kills, 17 points, Cerberus right back behind them at 16. But it's not going to, like, feel as good as you wanted it to. That's like one of those situations where if you're VP, you probably wanted to try and net more kills. but it was just so chaotic at the end game. Well, I mean, they're still trying to get in the top 16. They want every single kill.
Yeah,
that they
I
can
mean,
get, and there's
you
gonna be
want
opportunities.
all the kills, but walking away with 17 is going to be great.
Still good. Still feels good.
And same thing when you go with Cerberus walks out with 16, so the Sponge is playing well, and then Navi also going to put up some very good numbers. Look at the overall leaderboard. It is going to be obviously TSM. The teams that have played 12 are sitting up there at the top. Cerberus has qualified with 7 games, which is freaking hilarious. You got New Happy also looking very, very good, but VP off the back of that game is going to climb into the top 10.
Yeah, and now that we've also looked over, we can see that E-Arena, I believe, also feeling pretty good.
Oh, yeah. The Rabbit.
Now it's just going to be about this side of it, right? How many points can you get on this side of it if you still own that 7 matches, which, except for Weibo, is pretty much everybody.
You know, it really fits, right? That end game was a dog, a bear, and a rabbit. And that's really what you see, though. The VP, overwhelming force, using strength on the push, right? Then you've got the Cerberus fights like a pack of dogs, always looking for a hunt. E-Arena is great at finding movement, dodging other teams, and winning fights by surprise. I just love the fact they're sort of living up to those mascots, but those teams all playing very, very well. For me, 17, though. 17 points, worse than Armory Gaming. What? 17 is... I'm struggling with this one.
Yeah, there's a lot of dynamics going on with the squad. I usually don't like to dive into that, but, you know, with all the roster swaps, everything that's been going on, there's a couple of health issues here and there. They're having some outside problems that are coming, and it feels like they are definitely affecting them because, like, even that, whenever we saw them inside there going out so early, essentially caught in a position where they probably had an idea somebody was at.
I get where you're coming from,
Yeah.
but I also am saying this is the highest level of play, and at the end of the day, excuses are excuses.
Hey, I specifically put Lil Ghost on my fantasy squad yesterday because I had really big expectations. Whenever they switched him back in after PGS 3, it was a night and day difference point total-wise, but it just didn't seem like it carried over into this yet.
And whatever is going on, I hope that they figure it out because this is not what you expect from a team like 17, a brand like 17.
I
a
love that
stable
squad.
of 17. Falcons up at the top. Pulled points out of that game, all right? They came in today in a position that was absolutely felt untenable. They need to have some good games. And to start off, even Snaker sort of getting that end game, picking up a couple of points there. You could argue he is the reason that Cerberus had to go limping into that last fight. I think that's going to be a boost to their energy right now.
Anything off the get-go where you can pick up some points and start feeling like you can start the roll going is so vital. You hear it with the players all the time. It's like we talk about momentum for having the big win, but just being able to put something up on that first game that you can walk away with.
Well, it's time for us to put something up on the second game. Let's head back to Arango for the second match with your casters, the Elvish Guy and Saga.
Yeah, never have I been more hyped up for a game than that. That was a great little toss over there from Toffees. Enjoying that one. How are you feeling, Saga? Let's go.
I'm feeling like I'm sick of these gosh darn military islands.
True,
Of this
true.
gosh darn PGS. But hey, I mean, a flight path like this coming in from the southeast, there's a possibility that we might get to run it back, but I think a lot of the teams are going to be committing elsewhere on the map and hoping that we don't have to see that godforsaken land.
Well, we do have our first team, by the way, that has been eliminated, definitely without a doubt. That is Weibo Gaming, as they've now dropped down into 17th, and they will not be playing any games today. So,
But their spirit lives on, just slightly to the west of Shelter, where once again, Howl and Armory Gaming
it's party time.
are preparing to lose to whoever gets the red single-story building.
Right now, we're watching Navi on their drop in toward Milta. Milta power. But yes, indeed, we'll turn back in that direction. And it seems like maybe Armory Gaming
Okay.
don't want to take the fight.
Adaptation Gaming, it seems, because after getting dogged down 3 times in the span of 5 minutes across 3 different games, they've decided it may not be worth it. Longska's had enough
Tycon.
of Cerberus taking the absolute mick in this lobby. He's taken it into his own hands.
You're kidding
but
me.
Tycon with a barrel in his.
That's an unbelievable shot. Iron sights, Tycon under pressure, gets it done, and Sololzi will survive. Somehow.
He's letting him know. You hear him in the background. That man is screaming. He says, no chance, New Happy. You're not taking down my teammate today.
Get your hands off my boy.
Unbelievable. I don't understand how this team can so continually get into these awkward situations, terrible positions, 1vx's, and yet always they come out as strong. Maybe at most, Hisaki will sacrifice himself, but he's happy to do so because he knows that just enabling the absolute gamers he has on his team is is the recipe for success.
Get yourself a bro who is ride or die like that with you. That's what you need.
And get yourself over to PUBGesports.com to watch their POV. That's right, Cerberus is one of the POV teams, along with 5 others today.
And I think actually those POVs are, you know, a minute or two behind what you see on this stream. So you just watch that cool moment. If you want to go and watch it from the POV, you can go and do that.
I would recommend reducing the volume after Tycon gets the knock if you would like to not have tinnitus by the time you're 32.
Yeah. But that's a good thing to remember as well for anyone that is watching, you know, just for future reference. If one of those teams that is having their POV being streamed happens to be in a particularly interesting moment, you don't actually have to, you know, go over there and rewind and do whatever.
Oh, here we go again.
You just jump over and in a couple of minutes you'll see it. Great shots.
Iron sight barrel as well. Just crazy.
Well,
Absolutely wild. Armory Gaming, though, they survived to see the 3-minute mark, maybe for the first time for Dynasty, Riz, and Jame. They've actually seen that number on Erangel so far, but they've still got a long distance to go. Their loot's going to be a little bit rubbish because they got chased out of their spot, but for, I mean, a team like Falcons, they're more than happy. They're right directly into South George. The zone has centered up on top of them completely. A huge opportunity to get some points on the board.
yeah, indeed. There's a reason as well, by the way, that these players are the ones standing on stage. And, I mean, in the case of Cerberus, perhaps argument to be made for the best team in the world right now?
It'd be kind of dumb to argue against it currently.
Tell you what, though, we'll touch on KDF as we have an interview ready with Heaven.
각자의 자리에서 다음 진행 방향을 팀원들이 알 수 있게 전달을 해줘야 되는데 그게 좀 덜 됐던 것 같아서 안 됐던 것 같습니다. 그래서 저희끼리 점수 최대한 먹어보자고 얘기했던 것 같아요. 지금보다는 더 과감하게 해야 될 것 같고 무리하지 않는 선에서 최대한 점수 먹어볼 생각입니다. 세계대에 진출하는 팀들이 원래 계속 진출하던 팀들이고 전체적으로 상향 평준화가 돼가지고 그래도 좀 치열한 전투가 많은 것 같습니다.
See that? Panzerfaust in hand. Ooh, could be dangerous here. KDF in the sightlines on the interview and in the server as well.
And here
This
comes Heaven, the man himself, who provided the insight, but he can't provide the support in time. Xiaowu DD takes down Gumin, and the rest of KDF arrive here seconds too late, but they might just get a chance to prevent that flush.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, but we are starting to see it go back and forth. 3-on-3, it's definitely workable. Suju on the outskirts is now starting to cop a bit of damage, so a bit harder for him to provide Overwatch. Nade on in from Salutes. It's not quite going to land on its target.
Got more. He's got 3 more in hand. He just has to make sure he's aiming perfectly into the window, because if he misses the window, he's doing damage to his own teammate. Gumin takes 36 from the grenade that didn't make it, and Lil Ghost gets the angle through. Heaven gets taken down as well. Kwangdong Freaks might just get punished for being a little too over-aggressive with the split they were holding.
Yeah, down to just a couple. Bean and Salute are fighting for their lives.
Show!
Out of the smoke, and it just doesn't work at all. There's just no world. He's got a bit overzealous there. Gotta question it, but...
Oh, and the third party is coming in from Twisted Minds. They played this position so perfectly in yesterday's matches, to the detriment of Sonics as well. And now they're looking to clean up here once again.
Yeah, I gotta be honest, I don't really like seeing 17 take this fight. They are still stuck on 17 points. They do just go up to 18, but 17 is what they came into today with, which means they got no points out of the last game. And they're gonna potentially get very few out of this game as well, the way things are going. If this fight, you know, goes wrong against KDF, that's one thing, but obviously, as you mentioned, Twisted Minds are looking in for the third party as well, and that'll definitely cause problems for 17, who just absolutely cannot afford to be having bad games at this point in time. And Xiaowu now down. Salute is the last man standing for KDF, but he is still causing a headache for 17.
Yeah, they really don't look particularly happy, just catching a glimpse of Salute on the player cams as he loses his final teammate, gets caught in the middle of 2 teams, grenades flying towards him. Big chunk of damage of Petulins to hold the angle. Does not matter. Example has wrapped his way to the eastern tip of Everest, gets an angle inside the building, and KDF taken out first.
Yeah, 17 down to just a couple of members, so can't say I'm feeling particularly excited about their prospects here. Bit of spam from Petulins. Twisted Minds have also got Example out on the outskirts just to watch and see if 17 try to escape out the back door.
Needs to be cautious, making sure that Lil Ghost doesn't get an opportunity to hop up on the roof. But with Latte on top of Everest and Example in a similar position as well, it looks like that angle won't be possible. The double blue zone grenade gets some good damage, but Lou gets caught with a grenade in hand.
And will be flushed as well. Perfectix can't quite get there in time to find the trade or even let alone the cover. So a little bit of a mishap for Twisted Minds, who aren't going to get through this one as cleanly as they would like. Well aware of where those two remaining 17 players are, just in terms of which building that they're in, but it's really hard to dig them out.
That underground angle from Suju is disgusting. With his little helmet sticking up. What is that angle from Example? A millimeter of a gap between the door frame and the wall. Lil Ghost forced back into heel, and Batulins might just try and line up a shot as he comes around the side with a grenade.
Oh, they're going to bait him out with the grenade, and Batulins was there, ready and waiting. Good comms, good setup from Twisted Minds, and now they can push their way in for the finishing blow, knowing that there's only one player left alive. Batulins watch the back exit. Yeah, Perfectix has gone down. He might have jumped the gun a little bit there. Now some shots actually coming in the direction of Batulins as well from Latte, so Twisted Minds have taken a bit too long about this.
He stalled. He tried to hold off the push until Batulins was in a position to get the trade, but went down just a little bit too early. And now, Wally Tai, who took a very strong early position on top of Everest from their loot spot in Gatka, making their presence known, putting some shots in. Suju now tries to contribute a little more, but Batulins gets the better of the hip fire spray through the smoke.
Yeah.
Comes out ahead. Twisted Minds with a successful third party at the expense of Lou.
I guess you'll take it in the end.
Yeah, 5 points is worth one player in the early game.
Twisted Minds also pretty comfortable with their position on the scoreboard at the moment. 50 points total.
Yeah.
It's not quite 100% there, but it's most of the way there to being pretty much safe into the final 16, you would think. If you're a bit of a mathematician, which I am not. Actually failed math in grade 12.
I'm sorry to hear that.
But it was like the hard math. It was the hard guy math, you know?
Yeah, the kind of math where they stop using
numbers and start using letters.
Yeah, it's stupid. Worst kind of math. The best kind is caster math, and I can tell you that with one more point, Twisted Minds will be tied on points with D plus Kia, and that gives them very good prospects to get in. Every single sort of cut-off point has been somewhere between 51 to 57,
Right.
and there's a lot of teams within a very slim margin of that, all the way up to E-Arena in 7th, currently on 55. We expect
Yeah.
every single one of these teams is going to secure that many points across the course of the day. Even as far down as FaZe on 45 currently, they only need about 10 more to feel somewhat secure potentially, and that zone shift's going to help them out massively.
Yeah, VLTH on top of Everest being highlighted at the moment for us. It's a good place to be with a zone like this one. You're able to naturally get a lot of information, and you can do a bit of damage as well. A lot of pot shots, a lot of little chances to maybe pick up a free kill here or there. Steal away a knock. Cerberus on their way aerially, and are they going to contest for Everest is my question.
Oh yeah, they are, of course. Why not? They're already on top of the leaderboard. Why not be on top of the world as well? Wally Tai, well, they don't know exactly who this is, but they are going to regroup their split down towards Gatka instead. They don't want to commit to holding this as a two-man, expecting there to be pressure from multiple angles, so they might just back away, but for now, they are just going to try their luck, but they've got a vehicle set up to leave at a moment's notice.
Imas, once again, all eyes on him. It'll be Salolzi that's thinking about a grenade. Definitely doesn't look like Cerberus want to shy away from this fight at all. They know that they need to control the top side of this mountain if they want to be here. You've kind of got to shove your opponents off of it. It's not the kind of position that you want to be sharing, because there's a lot of little nooks and crannies and angles that can catch you off.
Oh, Wally Tai, they set up their vehicle, but it's a buggy. They hop on to try and make a move, and almost immediately receives a headshot, but thankfully Latte will survive to make the push down. Get the regroup on with the teammates, though they have lost the opportunity to flex a little bit further south. Gatka now occupied by FaZe Clan as they pushed on towards the least congested side of zone. Only really themselves and Howl occupying any space across the fields down towards Chopsticks, but Na'Vi starting to make an entrance from the very south. Daytrade coming in slightly off to the west as well, but this is just a massive line of scrimmage. Look at the mini-map right now.
It's ridiculous.
New Happy, VP, Cerberus, and Twisted Mind setting up a barricade for any of those teams to the north looking to move south.
Cerberus very much are, though, the kings of the hill. They have the best position. They are right at the top. It's obviously tough for teams to push their way up and fight into Cerberus, but for Cerberus, if they sense an opportunity, pushing your way down,
Look at them,
a little bit easier.
2-2 splitting like this. They know it's full teams on either side. They've got no information on where they are, who they are, how many they are standing, but they do not care. They're just going to control the entire mountain for themselves. Oh man, that is so much confidence on that squad.
It's a confidence game sometimes, isn't it?
Massively.
And there's a few teams that are kind of down bad as far as the confidence is concerned.
That's one way of putting it, for sure. For sure.
Not to name any names. It's been a little bit of a slower phase too, though, hasn't it? You know, not a whole lot happening here. Everyone's sort of set up. I thought maybe VLTH would run into some problems with Cerberus headed in their direction, but they were more than happy to kind of concede positioning.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I mean, they are still pretty much dead center of the zone. They held a wider split to keep their options open, but they felt the pressure from the north and from the south as well as FaZe made their push into Gatka itself, but they won't be too upset with having to regroup on the position that they currently have. Twisted Minds, though, having earned themselves the right to hold the compound and the eastern tip, also are not going to be pushing out too far and hoping that when this zone pops, they're going to get a bit of a foothold. But unfortunately, it does shift over to the western edge of Everest, and that most likely means they're going to have to try and fight their way through Cerberus.
Yeah, again, really, really good news for those teams that are on Everest. Again, reiterating that that is primarily Cerberus.
Armory Gaming, where are you going?
Ooh, that is an interesting shout. Well, surely you don't get away with this if it's Cerberus on the other side on the receiving end of that push. The shots is going to start to come through, and there's already some good connections. Isaki, a couple, but AG have managed to make it to the ground.
Like the coordination on the shots, they give a call out to say which guy are we shooting at. Everyone sprays towards the same target, but can't quite make it connect quickly enough to do any real damage onto Armory Gaming, any lasting damage that they can't simply heal through. But they're well aware of the position up towards the top of the hill as well, and now Twisted Minds have actually wrapped underneath the southern side of Everest, and they're starting to make a push up. Tycon is well aware of it, and now Virtus.pro are in a position to try and catch them out as they make their push up top as well.
Starting well. Quizzy as well chiming in. Twisted Minds, have they bitten off a little more than they can chew? Virtus.pro also losing members here and there. As Falcons get involved, we sort of say phase 2 is a little bit slow in terms of the frags, but phase 3 has really picked the pace up. And that, I guess, comes with the territory, right? If you have one phase that's slow, the next one, when the rotations have to happen, does get a little bit messy. It's just a vomit on the kill feed. There's kills happening all over the place, and plenty of teams involved.
Yeah, FaZe getting themselves involved as well from distance with the DMRs from Gatka. Perfect position to watch a fight unfold on the top of Everest, and where else would we possibly see it? All the emergency parachutes and teams pushing up in that direction. We've got a whole lot of teams making wide wrap rotates. Once again, unsurprisingly, E-Arena and Na'Vi fit the bill for that exact message. They're going to make their way just towards the north of Flood in Hospital into South George itself. It's an entirely free bit of space, but very unlikely to see any sort of presence in phase 4. So they've got to plan quickly to see what their next move is going to be.
It's not a bad spot to be in, though, honestly, for E-Arena if you happen to play Edge. Bleed just milling around underneath Everest. I don't know if you really want to get involved in this, though. I've got to be honest. Seymour, easy pickings for Nixie. A couple of shots come in from Gen G that is going to pop Nixie back down low, but he's gotten his job done. He's got that flush, and he's happy. He's been helped out by Quizzy as well, so Bleeder just going to have to scurry away and take their losses and run with them.
Playing the north side of Everest is always difficult, especially when there's still presence in the crates and the warehouses to the north as well. Just no real cover to be found. You lack the trees that you have in the forest that lines the southern side of Everest, and just pulls up a little bit too close to Virtus.pro, but they will be thankful at the least for the opportunity, because the zone has shifted so far over to the west that Falcons, yeah, they might even reconsider their split right now. Look at the position of Rello and Snakers. It's a very strong position. They might just commit to a defense on that, as Lucarux commits to the spray, takes down Perfectix, but overcommits onto the peak as Wally Tai find an opportunity to get a third-party shot. They sit him down, and they have to turn Quizzy around quickly to make sure they can grab the revive before Cerberus swoop in to clean the point.
Yeah, FaZe now on the move as well. They've got a big old rotation to make. We did actually touch on FaZe a couple of times yesterday being perhaps like the last team to rotate into various zones. Usually it was phase 1. It's a bit later on in the piece now, and that is some stylish driving, might I add. Luckily, not quite high enough on the ridge for Nurans to get shots in.
If you're looking at FaZe and you see a car upside down, typically it's Vex. But you know, Jeems is capable of those little twisty turning maneuvers, but they were in this position before. They actually had the radio tower hill themselves. They flexed out further towards Gatka, and now they have to fight back into the position that they once owned. And they have to go through day trade to try and find a spot in the zone. But first, Armory Gaming has to make a push through Cerberus, and Hisaki once again will be the first to fall.
Yeah, shots from Himas aren't quite connecting at the moment. Dragunov just not it, you know.
It is at this range,
Yeah.
if you can land the headshot, and Himas usually can. It's just very difficult to
Right
hit
now.
Armory Gaming.
Yeah, right now it's not connecting for some reason. Puchils is in an awkward spot. That is just not where it's at, though. Quick Trade does come onto Gustav, so 1-for-1 Day Trade might still be in the mix. It is imperative for Day Trade to win this fight.
They have to. They
I
simply
mean,
have no choice. They
23.
cannot fail. They
Yeah.
need at least like 40 points from this point on. They've already let one game go without reaching the margins that they would require to make to the grand finals. Have to wrap around the side. Corrects. He's holding the angle. He gets off the revive. He hears Flash making the push, and it's fallen apart for Day Trade once again. FaZe Clan get the better of them, and up on Everest, Howl have now entered the fray.
Yeah, Cerberus are down to just the 2. And you've got shots coming through from Howl, like you said. VLTH are on the other side of this, and doesn't look very good for Cerberus. We did say they were the kings of the hill, but seems as though there's some regicide in play at the moment.
I like that word. Yeah.
Learned that one from Age of Empires, I think.
Age of Empires 2,
Yeah.
fantastic. No, but it definitely feels fitting. Tycon, though, can't get out of there quickly enough. The P90's hunting him down, but Himas is there to answer back onto the Mad.
Himas is always there, isn't he? He's always
always
looking,
is.
always hunting. Hasn't quite had as impressive of a game 2 compared to game 1, but he might be able to double down actually on Howl here. He's got a bit of a positional advantage being up above them.
I feel like that's setting the bar pretty darn high, though, for yourself. 1,000 damage and 6 kills in game number 1.
That's true.
It's a high bar to hit, but unfortunately he won't be getting anywhere close. Ketpa will make sure of it. The P90 close range up on top of Everest will get the job done. Cerberus removed, but their job is still not over. They still have to get through Wally Tai holding them, and then they've got to get to the zone. It's gone even further to the west.
Well, how about another one of those teams that's been flying under the radar a little bit? We saw that highlighted very quickly on the map. Falcons, 4 strong, dead center of the zone in a compound. This has to be their game. In the same way that we talked about Bleed and Day Trade, it's also Falcons. They really do need to get something done, and they need to do it quite quickly. We'll hold that thought for the moment, though, because that'll come into play a little bit later on, and we keep our attention on the top of Everest as Howl is finished off quite cleanly by VLTH, who are putting together a pretty decent game here just quietly.
Yeah. On Everest, off Everest, and back on again once it's safe to do so. They've done all the hard work of cleaning up all the third-partying fights, and now they get to reap the rewards, cleaning up Howl as they make their move out of the blue zone. Uniques will get a long-range shot onto VP's Quizzy as he tried to exit the scene of the crime, but could not find cover from Wally Tai up above, who are now 5 kills deep, and they've got into the placement points on 50 points so far. A surprising team out of the APAC region who many would never have expected to make it into the grand finals, but they might be on for a two-peat. But first of all, Uniques, yeah, he's not going to make it out of this position. It looks like Megvalos isn't either.
Well, you had a bit too much fun. To be fair, though, again, 5 points on the board for this game from VLTH. They're kind of keeping it ticking over nicely, and that's really all that they need to be doing today to make it through to Friday. Obviously, a day off tomorrow for everybody. Some will be happy with that, some won't.
Oh, yeah.
Some might be taking that as a travel day, to my understanding, based on some of the conversations I've been having. Depends on how today goes.
Yeah.
A lot of teams.
A lot riding on the next 4.5 games. 10 minutes or so remaining in this one. and we're still to decide the victor. Falcons holding down a position dead center, still 4 strong. They've picked up 2 points from there right now, still looking at about 25 to 30 points away from guaranteed safety into the grand finals, but this could go a long way towards securing it, especially with another knock onto Megvelox.
It's a great compound to actually be in, right? There's not a lot of cover around it. It's a fantastic position to hold down the fort from, farm from. You can actually get a lot of work done in a position like this one as Falcons, and boy, do they need to get a lot of work done. They need to win this game. They have been given the opportunity to do so. Now let's see if they can run away with it. VLTH are on the move. I should say what's left of VLTH are on the move, because it is just a couple of members. They're going to hole up underneath a couple of rocks. And they're safe for the moment, but that will only last for so long, especially if Gen G decide to take up residence on the ridge above them. Zone pull again will be good for Falcons.
At the high ground just to the east side of Hospital, they've pushed forwards in towards Bleed Esports into grenade range. Barpo overstepped slightly, but Tosi over top peeks into Orcarin, and it's enough to clean up Bleed from that horrible little dip that was all they really had to play for such a long time. Rex holding the back line. He's going to get crept up on now as Lyric's starting to make a move out from Hospital. They're not taking the subtle approach. They're smoking their way forwards, but they're lurking, leaving Lyric's lurking right at the very edge of the zone, who might just potentially find a timing to creep up and catch 1 or 2 of Gen G as they look for the res.
Yeah, patience a virtue for E-Arena at the moment, but they can't afford to wait too long. There's only 15 seconds left before that zone is going to push them. And Lyrics will be the first one that has to move, so that might push him out of safety and into danger. Rex is aware that there's players close by. He's dropping nades. First one does actually connect slightly onto Tigger. It's a good start to the engagement for Rex. And for Gen G, who are clearing out the edge of zone. More points on offer there for Falcons as they pick up a couple more kills onto the FaZe members. 4 here now. 2 for Snakers, 2 for Flood. Up to 32. Remember, the number that we're guessing that we're looking for is about 55. 55 plus is what teams are going to be aiming for at the moment. Still a long way to go, but this one could really put them within striking distance today.
Right. It's a desperate move out of FaZe. They used the one vehicle that they had remaining just to try and see if they could send it forwards to a ridge, and it's left Corexy stranded. Smokes may just be all he has, but I don't even know if he has any, but he definitely has about 10 DMRs just absolutely trained on his position. The second he gives any sort of indication that he's trying to make a move, it's going to be night-night for FaZe in 7th place. He just has to try and hope that he can outlast someone else, or maybe find a quick peek over the top, but not quite to be. He has no smokes to work with. He can't stop to heal. He's just got to go. And unfortunately, it's not looking good for him. Ming Ming will be the one to collect the kill. Falcons maybe letting that one go amiss, but Lyrics now activates over the top, gets 1, gets 2, and goes down to the blue zone, but Tigger and Zizzy are going to try and push forward and capitalize on their teammate sacrifice.
Yeah, there's a bunch of util getting tossed on in, but that just isn't working out for E-Arena at all. Tigger drops like a rock. Zizzy is now getting shot as well, so it's kind of out of the frying pan into the fire for E-Arena. Importantly as well, I'll turn your attention toward that push from New Happy. They tried to crash in onto Falcons, were unsuccessful in doing so. A knock onto Flood, but that'll be revivable, and New Happy down to Ming Ming only. Again, more points into the back pocket of Team Falcons. One of those teams that desperately needs it at the moment.
And all that is happening now really is just for lack of options. New Happy, they claimed the point, the 2-point kill from Corexy of FaZe down towards the south, and really that was the last thing that they could possibly hope to do in this game. They tried to make a play onto Falcons. Understandably, it didn't work, but now Na'Vi, they've pushed themselves forwards. They were holding the west. They've been playing the edge so darn effectively. Faorist, the mastermind of strategy, keeping his teammates safe and secure for as long as he possibly can. Mines blue zone grenade will sit down Ming Ming as Tosi peeks up over the top, catches out Wally Tai lurking by the rock, and makes quick work of both of them.
Gen G down to just a couple of members. Na'Vi, a trio, which definitely keeps that door open for Falcons, especially when you consider that with this push in from Gen G, well, there's almost no hope. They have a snowball's chance in hell of making their way into the zone safely, at which point it's debatably going to be a 4-on-3 for Falcons to play with, and they also don't really have to move out of their compound just yet. They've got the room to play with for the next couple of minutes or so. Tosi, easy finish for Hakatori. Again, again, keeping himself in the discussion today, has had 2 back-to-back solid games.
It's almost come to be an expectation of the young man. Really just has been popping off for a better part of almost a year now. Even back to his days on Pod Samolet, now pushing forwards. Gen.G will be cleaned up. I mean, a slim thread of hope for Sonic's Copium enjoyers as Gen.G on 17th place, 46 points. 3 points to go until they're tied with Sonics. It's really not looking good for their chances to remain in PGS4, but Falcons might just be right there alongside them if they can get the better of Na'Vi in this endgame.
Yeah, Snakers looking for a bead onto Fairest. Hasn't been able to find it just yet. Falcons, though, at some point are going to have to push their way out of this building, so they'll want to be taking some space. Na'Vi, at the moment, actually have the better of it when it comes to the next zone, you would think. But it's perhaps the eye of the storm at the moment, Saga, right? Where we see all the shenanigans happen, then it'll slow down for a couple of minutes, and then we'll get stuck back into it. Falcons, though, recognizing the job at hand. They're going to have to move their way forward. Snakers is just pushing out in the open. It looked scary for a second. The cover was good. And the smoke's down, allow Rello all the way out onto the flank. As long as he gets behind the rock, he will be safe.
He's taking a risk, a big risk, to try and make that push dry without using any smokes. Hakatori gets the better of mine with the Grozer as the push is committed forward. Falcons have got 11 grenades, but they're not throwing any of them. They might just be throwing the game instead.
Yeah, this is not looking good for Falcons at all. It's just looking a bit uncoordinated, to be quite honest with you. And Flood, he's trying desperately to put some damage down to provide some space for his teammates, but I don't even know if these are going to be revivable knocks. I mean, no smoke for Flood. That means Mime's a dead man.
I like the play from Rello to get the off angle. It was risky, but it almost paid off. And to be fair, that is where the vast majority of the grenades are. He has 5, but he can't get in range now. The car is unusable. He has no smokes to get any closer to Na'Vi. He was praying and hoping and relying on his close range engagement of his teammates. But Hakatori with the Grozer just getting the better of Mime, getting that opening position for the peek over the top. And right now, from a potential game-winning position, Falcons may just have to settle for second.
Potentially. I mean, look, Rello and Flood, they do still have some nice angles to be working with. But it really comes down to the shots, and honestly, Rello's actually doing pretty solid damage at this point in time. Mime, in the meanwhile, actually being revived by Flood. That's dangerous territory, but Rello's got himself a knock. There's going to be a nade over the top. Flood copped a headshot in the meanwhile. Is it going to be enough? Yes! The bounce is so good from Hakatori again. He just stays winning, and it's on to Rello solo. Falcons are going to be very disappointed with how this game has played out. It's almost certain now that it's going to go in the other direction, and Na'Vi, the patience will pay off.
Rello has truly done all that he can to get into this position and provide the opportunities for his teammates, but Na'Vi, the young gunners from Ukraine, just too damn strong. Fairest lining up the utility, the vehicle is gone, the tags are coming through, and a blue zone grenade might just be enough to get the final tick as Rello desperation spray with the FAMAS, and he's got a jammer pack. He's delaying as long as he can, but it won't be enough. Fairest will secure the final kill, and Na'Vi get the better of Falcons in a 3 versus 4 to end off game number 2.
Yeah, big win for Na'Vi. I'm going to be interested to hear, though, what Toffees and Matcham have to say about that one from the Falcons' perspective, because it did look like they were set up for success, but that push, I don't know about you, Saga, but it just felt a little bit more uncoordinated than what you'd like to see. Some individual fights being taken, some like 1v2s, 1v3s, when they had the numbers advantage. They got close. You got to say, not bad from Falcons. It's points on the board, definitely, but is that really even going to be considered a win for them when something else was on offer?
I don't know how much of their utility they were forced to commit when New Happy breached the compound, but it was to their detriment for sure. But Falcons not able to get the better of Na'Vi, winning game number 2.
Na'Vi, the young guns of PUBG, come out and throw down. What a win on the back of Hakatori, the Heartbreaker, as he tears away the potential victory from the Falcons. Let's break this game down, Matt. I want to start with the Falcons because Elfish and Saga said they want to get our opinion on this one. I disagree with what their position was, because here's the deal.
I agree with you.
They're in that spot. Navi's got a good lock, and I think what happened to Falcons, this is the most proactive that I have seen them be in this event so far. The rotations, they didn't work out, but the cover was there, and the attempts were there, and I at least like that they took action before they had to.
What helps is understanding the terrain, right? So whenever we look at the positioning, Falcons had a full open area that they were going to have to navigate. The opposing team was already entrenched on a hillside. They had more cover to work with, and that building was going to get moved. So I love the fact that we saw them split out. It was Snakers, I believe, that made the direct run in. And the moment that the shot started coming at him, the vehicle moved, got to the rock so that way Rello could get over there, and the Snakers then used the distraction of Rello to try and make another move. That's a highly coordinated, aggressive move. The aim didn't come out the way that they wanted it to after that, but the specific movement coming out of it was really, I love the mindset behind it.
You don't always win, but you make the moves early. And so I think that was just where Falcons could wait and see what happens, or they try to get proactive, and I will always honor a team's attempt at that. And they will be happy with that. They got 8 kills and second place. They got more points, I think, in that game than all day yesterday.
There's a very interesting thing we don't get to talk about a lot inside of PUBG, and this is a great opportunity to do so, which is a lot of times the play is a good idea. The gunfight just doesn't go your way. So a lot of times people will take away, oh, the play was a bad idea. No, I love the idea of the play. It just wish that the gunfighting was there whenever it needed to be.
And it wasn't even necessarily, I think the gunfighting was mostly okay. And, Rello took some damage on the way in. And then Hakatori, the Heartbreaker, nails that perfect grenade, as he has been doing things like that the whole time, and just the res is not possible, and they forced the one.
It was Snakers going down too early off of that initial area. That's where I wish
they would have gotten back. It was a beautiful grenade. Everything was nice. Na'Vi played it perfectly. I think both teams can walk away from this game happy with their performance, but the happiest will obviously be Na'Vi. Hakatori, 5 kills, but the rest of the team, no slouches, as this has been a newly built unit for Na'Vi. I had questions on how long it's going to take them to truly activate. The answer is now. These guys are good.
Hakatori, just so hot right now. Dude, he is just absolutely wrecking it. I mean, of course,
Look at that smile.
Man of the match. He's got to be the man of the match. Decent damage coming out, points contribution, survival time, all that other stuff. But 5 kills, 5 knocks, but the amount of pressure that he can unload is just absolutely insane. Whenever he enters a firefight, it's all confidence, and it's just, like he knows he's going to win whatever happens next.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at what they walk away. Na'Vi walks away with 18 points. Falcons, okay, I thought they maybe beat yesterday's totals. They didn't, but 14 points off of one game is going to be a huge glow up considering where they started today. Gen G, who also is on the climb, the hunt, that 11 is going to put them in a great spot going forward. Cerberus, Twisted Minds, teams that we expected to do well, continue to grab here points. I will also say the one for me is Freaks. Freaks is that other team that is sort of in this hunt to determine where that cutoff is going to be at the end of the day, and they're walking away with another 0-point game.
I just love the fact that a bad game from Cerberus is dropping on Everest and still getting 5 kills. My God.
Let's talk Everest for a second. That game, that whole
I know,
Everest
we don't even get a
situation
chance
was
to
wild.
talk about, that was an absolutely wild game. I loved it.
It was a really good one. All right, so 4 a.m. still looking up there on top in TSM, but those will possibly get passed as the day continues. TSM, though, at 105, looking very, very good. Now, over on the right side, that's what we are going to be tracking throughout the day. VP has moved into 11. Howell pretty comfortable at 52. The cutoff is 16 for those of you watching at home. Right now, the Sonics sitting at there at 49. But I got to tell you, if you are a Sonics fan, prepare because the next game may be your last. As Gen G does make a nice push up that wall. Falcons, however, at 41, is looking like a completely different team today.
While we're talking about Sonics, let's not forget D plus Kia, that's presently in 13th, only at 51 points. Pretty decent chance that they're going to be shifting down given the point spread we can now see coming into the hunt. With Falcons now coming alive, Gen G finding some solid points, it's starting to get
and I'm
desperate.
I'm going to say this because at home I want to be fair. Falcons got fed circles. They started out, their first place they went to was Hospital. They collapsed on a building. I asked them, what do you call this building? And they said their code name for it is Flat Top on Yellow. So they sat at Flat Top on Yellow that entire match. but they got the kills they needed to out of it, and you win the games you need to win.
Or you just call it, I don't know, that compound west of Everest.
Call it whatever you want. What I'm going to call it is a break. When we get back, we're going to change maps. 2 games in, 4 more to go. Don't go anywhere. This is PGS4.